I used to work the graveyard shift at a gas station called Sunset Fuel, a lonely outpost off Highway 62 where the world seems to stop after midnight. I say used to, because after what happened a few months ago, I swore off night shifts for good. The station's small, just a few pumps and a cramped convenience store, with flickering fluorescent lights and shelves stocked with off-brand snacks and motor oil. Most of my shift was spent wiping down counters, restocking coolers, or ringing up the occasional trucker or weary traveler passing through. The quiet was both a blessing and a curse. Hours dragged, but the solitude let my mind wander. That night, around 2:30 a.m., the world outside was still, the air thick with a hazy chill. I stepped out for a breath, rubbing my hands against the cold, watching my breath dissolve into the night. The neon sign buzzed faintly, casting a sickly yellow glow over the empty lot. The highway stretched into darkness, flanked by dense woods that seemed to swallow sound itself. As I turned to head back inside, movement caught my eye. A figure behind one of the pumps. He wore a dark red hoodie, hood up, hands buried in his pockets. No car, no reason to be there. He stood half-turned toward the store, motionless like he was studying me. My stomach tightened, but I told myself he was just waiting for a ride. I went inside, locking the door behind me, and kept watch through the glass. He didn't leave. Instead, he shuffled in a strange circular pattern, like a predator pacing its cage. Minutes passed and no car pulled up, and as if flipping a switch, he moved fast, purposeful, pushing through the door and striding to the counter. He didn't speak at first, just stared, his eyes scanning me like he was memorizing my face. When he finally spoke, his voice was rushed, almost rehearsed. His car had broken down just past the pumps, he said. Needed a jump, maybe some gas. The story was thin as paper. I'd been outside minutes ago, and no car was there. I offered to call a tow truck, my voice steady, despite the alarm bells in my head. He shook his head, too quick, saying he just needed a flashlight or help checking the engine. His words felt like a script, his eyes watching my every reaction, testing me. He pointed to the security monitor behind me, insisting his car was there. Skeptical, I glanced at the screen, and there it was. A sedan parked just beyond the highway entrance, headlights off. My heart sank. I knew that car hadn't been there earlier. Then I saw a shadow moving near the rear bumper, someone crouching, barely visible. A cold wave of dread washed over me. I forced a smile, said I'd help but needed to grab my phone from the back. The second I turned, I slammed my hand on the panic button under the counter. The alarm shrieked, piercing the silence. I braced for him to lunge, but instead his nervous act dissolved, his shoulders relaxed, and a slow, knowing grin spread across his face, like the alarm was a minor inconvenience. In one fluid motion, he turned and bolted. I rushed to the monitors, catching him and another figure sprinting into the woods, not toward the car, which sat abandoned, its passenger door ajar. A third person had been inside the whole time. The police arrived within minutes, their flashlights sweeping the lot. The car was still there, engine cold, reported stolen a week earlier from a town 100 miles away. No footprints led from it, no trace of the men in the woods. One officer pointed out the open passenger door, a detail I'd missed in my panic. They took my statement, towed the car, and pulled the surveillance footage, but it led nowhere. Months later, there's still no answers, no suspects, no motives, just an empty car and a night I can't forget. I don't know why gas stations draw these kinds of predators, but I know one thing. I'll never work another night shift. I worked the night shift at a Walmart on the outskirts of a small town, stocking shelves in the electronics section. With just the hum of overhead lights and the occasional squeak of a cart to break the monotony, the nights blur into each other, a haze of restocking phone chargers and Bluetooth speakers while the world sleeps. Most customers are night owls killing time or truckers grabbing snacks before hitting the road. A couple weeks ago, I noticed him. At first, he was just another guy wandering the aisles, hands in his pockets, no cart, no purpose. I didn't think much of it. People meander at 2 a.m., but after a while I realized he wasn't shopping, he was watching. He'd linger in the next aisle, hover by the clearance rack, or stand to still by the TVs, always just close enough for me to feel his presence. His movements were subtle, deliberate, like he wanted me to notice but not confront him. I told myself I was paranoid, that he was probably waiting for someone, but the knot in my gut wouldn't loosen. I expected him to make a move, ask for my number, say something sleazy, but he never did. He just watched, his eyes catching mine every time I glanced up. My radio was dead, batteries drained, so I couldn't call for help without leaving my section. I was about to track down a manager when a hand clamped onto my arm. I nearly jumped out of my skin, but before I could react, a woman's voice rang out, loud and cheerful. "There you are." She was in her 30s, maybe with a wide, toothy smile and an energy that felt too big for the empty store. She rambled about looking all over for me, like we were best friends reuniting after years apart. I'd never seen her before. Her grip was firm, her eyes bright but unreadable. Before I could speak, she leaned in, her voice dropping to a whisper. "That guy's been recording you. Follow me." My stomach plummeted. I stole a glance. The man was still there, no longer pretending to browse, just staring, his expression blank but intense. Fear clawed at me, and I let her pull me along, clinging to her act like a lifeline. She kept up the chatter, weaving a story about some trip we'd supposedly taken, laughing at fake inside jokes. I barely heard her, my mind stuck on the man. Had he really been recording me? The thought made my skin crawl. She steered me through the store, moving fast, past the registers, past the self-checkout, past the bustling front aisles. The further we went, the quieter it got. The warehouse section loomed ahead, dimly lit, stacked with pallets and crates. Beyond it was the side exit, used for loading shipments, out of reach of the store's cameras. My relief started to fray. I told her we were safe now, that we should find a manager, but she tightened her grip, her smile sharpening. "He's still lurking," she said, tugging me forward. I dug my heels in, unease creeping up my spine. "I'm serious," I said, twisting my arm. "You can let go." She didn't. Her smile stayed fixed, but it was wrong now, like a mask slipping. "Just a little further," she insisted, pulling harder. I realized where we were headed, the exit. No cameras, no witnesses. Panic surged. I yanked my arm free, screaming for help, and bolted toward the front. She shouted after me, calling my name, my real name, which I hadn't told her. The words echoed in my head as I ran, my sneakers pounding the polished floor. A coworker, alerted by my screams, met me halfway, already calling security on his radio. By the time guards arrived, the woman and man were gone. Security footage confirmed they'd entered together, moving like a team. The man's face was clear in one frame, staring directly at the camera, but hers was always turned, obscured by her hair or a tilt of her head. The police called it a failed abduction attempt, deliberate and planned. They're still searching for the man, his face a lead they hope will crack the case. But the woman, the one who knew my name, she's a ghost. I can't shake the thought that this wasn't random. They targeted me, and I don't know why. Every night shift now feels like a trap waiting to spring. My name is Harper, and I work the closing shift at the Drifter's Den, a weathered dive bar perched on the edge of a sleepy town along Highway 29. It's a no-frills joint. Its wooden walls stained by years of cigarette smoke and spilled beer, the air thick with the ghosts of old conversations. The jukebox, a relic from the 80s, churns out the same tired rotation of Led Zeppelin, Skynyrd, and Springsteen, its neon glow casting a faint red haze over the scuffed linoleum floor. Our patrons are a predictable mix. Grizzled locals who know each other's stories by heart, out truckers hauling cargo through the night, and the occasional tourist wide-eyed and out of place, chasing a cheap shot of bourbon. I love the rhythm of it, the clink of glasses, the hum of low chatter, the way the night unfolds like a familiar song. The tips are better than you'd expect for a place like this, and I've mastered the art of handling the crowd. The loud talkers who spill their life stories over their third beer, the flirts who think a wink earns them a discount, the quiet drinkers nursing their sorrows, and the ones who just want to be invisible. Weekends are a circus, but weekdays are slow, and I work them alone. No barback, no coworkers, just me and the dim hum of the bar. It's peaceful, but the solitude can feel heavy, and I've learned to stay sharp. Our clientele isn't always tame, and bar fights flare up like summer storms. It was a Tuesday, the clock ticking past 1 a.m. when he walked in. The door creaked, cutting through the jukebox's rendition of Sweet Home Alabama. He was late 40s maybe, but looked like he belonged in a city penthouse, not a backwater bar. Clean-shaven, hair neatly combed, he wore a black turtleneck under a tailored trench coat. It's the kind of outfit that screamed money without shouting it. His posture was unnervingly perfect, like he'd spent years standing at attention. He moved with purpose, his eyes scanning the room slow, deliberate, like he was cataloging every detail. The cracked bar stools, the flickering exit sign, the half-empty bottle of Jack behind me. He slid onto a stool, his movements smooth but not showy, and ordered a top-shelf scotch. No ice, no hesitation. As I poured, he smiled, warm, disarming smile, asked if I liked working here. It was a standard question, the kind I'd heard 100 times, so I grinned, said I did, and tossed out a half-hearted joke about the glamour of pouring drinks till dawn. He laughed, soft and genuine, and for a moment, he reminded me of a kindly uncle, the type who'd slip you $20 at a family barbecue. The bar was quiet, just a couple of regulars nursing beers in the corner, so we chatted. He asked about the town, the bar, nothing too personal. Then, out of nowhere, he leaned forward, his voice dropping slightly, and asked if I ever dreamed of doing something bigger. The question hung in the air, odd but not threatening. I shrugged, gave my usual bartender spiel about being content for now, and expected him to drop it. He didn't. His eyes lingered on me, a flicker of disappointment crossing his face, like I'd failed some unspoken test. After a long pause, he asked what time I got off. The question hit like a cold wind. He hadn't flirted, hadn't given off that vibe, but it still felt wrong. I forced a smile, mumbled something vague about late, and busied myself wiping the counter, hoping he'd take the hint. He didn't push, just nodded, that same warm smile curling his lips like he knew something I didn't. He finished his drink. slid a crisp $100 bill across the bar, way too much for a single scotch, and walked out into the night. His trench coat swaying like a shadow. I didn't know what to make of it. The money felt heavy, like it carried a hidden weight. I tucked the bill into the register and tried to shake off the encounter, convincing myself it was just a weird one-off. A week later, he was back, but not alone. A woman was with him, mid-30s, her appearance jarring against the bar's gritty backdrop. She wore tight, trendy, close-ripped jeans, a leather jacket that looked like they belonged on a 20-something influencer, not her. Her smile was too wide, too practiced, like she'd rehearsed it in a mirror. Every move she made felt staged. The way she tossed her hair, the way she leaned against the bar like we were old friends. As I set down napkins, she didn't order or say hello. She just grinned and said, "You're so pretty," her fingers grazing my arm, lingering a beat too long. I laughed, thanked her, but my skin prickled. Something was off. The man, so talkative last time, said nothing, his eyes fixed on the woman like they were sharing a silent script. I poured their drinks and she started firing questions. How long had I worked here? How old was I? Did I live nearby? Small talk, but it felt like an interrogation. Her eyes locked onto mine, studying me like I was a puzzle to solve. At one point, she glanced at the man, a quick, wordless exchange, then leaned in, her voice low and conspiratorial. She said she ran an exclusive event club, hosting private parties for wealthy clients. You'd make a killing, she said. Tossing out a figure $10,000 for a weekend like it was pocket change. Fun, safe, exclusive, she kept repeating, her smile never faltering, though it started to look like a mask. Then she suggested I step outside to meet someone who could explain it better. My heart kicked into overdrive. I shut it down, my voice firm. I'm good. Just then, a group of rowdy regulars burst in, laughing and shouting about a football game. Her smile twitched, a crack in her facade before she and the man stood and left without a word. I told my boss, Mike, and my coworkers the next day. We agreed to keep an eye out. Mike, a gruff but reliable guy, promised he was a 15-minute drive away if I needed him, and the bar's grainy security cameras were usually enough to discourage trouble. But a few nights later, after closing, I spotted a car across the street. Dark, engine off, just sitting there under a broken streetlight. The hairs on my neck stood up. I told myself it was nothing, just paranoia. But as I walked to my car, keys clutched like a weapon. The feeling of being watched clung to me. I checked my mirrors as I pulled out. The car followed. It stayed back, subtle but unmistakable, matching every turn I made. My pulse thundered, but I forced myself to stay calm. I took a random side street, then another, was still there. Heart pounding, I remembered a police station a few miles away. I floored it, pulling into the brightly lit lot. The car behind me swerved and sped off, tires squealing into the night. Weeks later, on another slow shift, the woman returned alone. It was near midnight, the bar nearly empty. I texted Mike under the counter, my fingers shaking as I tried to stay casual. She sat at the bar, that same artificial smile plastered on her face, hands folded like she was posing for a portrait. "Thought I'd check on you," she said, her voice syrupy. My stomach twisted, but I kept my cool, saying we were about to close. She pouted, asked for an old-fashioned. I poured it slowly, stalling, praying Mike would show up. Then I heard the soft click of the front door shutting. I spun around. She was gone. Through the window, I saw a black van idling outside, its headlights off. A metallic rattle came from the back door. Someone was trying to get in. Panic surged. I grabbed a heavy metal shaker, dialed 911, and braced myself, my heart hammering so loud I could barely hear the dispatcher. Headlights swept across the lot Mike's truck. The rattling stopped, and the van peeled out, gravel crunching under its tires. When Mike reviewed the security footage with the police, it was worse than I feared. 2 masked figures had been crouching by the front door, waiting while another pounded on the back, clearly trying to flush me out. The van's plates were unregistered, a dead end. It's been months, and the case is cold. Mike doesn't make me work alone anymore, but every night shift feels like a gamble. I keep replaying it, wondering how they knew I'd be alone and what would VA happen if I run out that front door.